So welcome to another episode of the Talking Balls podcast, the snooker podcast, out with you every Wednesday. And I'm your host, Michael Wright, on Twitter as Wright74. And in my top left window, as I look on our screen here, I've got our co-host, Lee.
Yeah, hi everybody, Lee here. Welcome aboard. Really looking forward to our chat today. One of my friends from back in the day and a fantastic snooker player. So welcome to our guest today.
And our guest today is Ian McCulloch. So big welcome, Ian.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. We're really looking forward to it.
So you guys go back then. So it's quite nice. I think Lee's been able to, some of our recent episodes are people that Ian's got or Lee's got experience with meeting and playing in ProAms or different tournaments all around the kind of the UK and whatever. But you guys go back a little bit. What do you remember from those times?
He was too good. He used to pot too many balls. That's what I remember.
And I remember you being very kind, Ian.
Not many say that, pal. But there used to be a really good club up here. Well, it still is a good club up in Carlisle. And I started going up because it was different when we sort of when I turned pro. He never did. He should have done in '92. Obviously, it was hard in the early days because obviously you were playing a block qualifying in the summer, and if you didn't qualify for venues, you had a lot of spare time on your hands. And the Pro-Am scene then wasn't as big as what it had been in the 80s, but there was still a lot of tournaments down this neck. When I say this neck of the woods, the northwest sort of thing, and then so there was like something in there was two comps every weekend in Manchester. There was something midweek at Blackburn. And there was Carlisle once a month in Sunday, so we used to go up to Carlisle because that's what you did to earn your money basically, and that's how me and Lee met. God, a million years ago, isn't it now?
It seems like that, Ian.
Yeah.
You're obviously based in Preston, Ian, so you must have had comps going on, all round about you.
Yeah, there was a regular one at the big club. I think you came down to that a few times, Lee. The one at the old Coral Club in town. Did you come down to that, the Pro-Am?
I've never been to that one, Ian. No.
I thought you did do. But they'll say there was Manchester. I was actually playing a tournament in Manchester the day the bomb went off in '94 and '95. The club shut, held the dust. I still remember it to this day. I was playing Peter Donegan,
wow.
And but there was comps at Walkden where Craig Steadman and John Farnsworth owned the club, and I can remember Craig Steadman coming in there in his school uniform when he was a kid. And then there was comps at Stephen Charles. There was comps at God, my memory's terrible now. The old Demerara, which was, I think it's called the Rainbow Club now or something like that. That was sort of like literally 200 or 300 meters from the Hacienda. And there was comps all the time. So you were never. You were never stuck for something to play in. Carlisle was once. When I first got with my missus, I was doing all right in a lot of them comps as well. She thought there was something wrong if I didn't win them both in a weekend. But there was that many comps to play, and it was great. It was happy days when you look back.
Yeah, but sort of going back to the Portland Club in Carlisle, in those days they were played once a month, Ian, at the end of the month. And, it was a fantastic club, and all the boys in the club and that were great. Andy Bell run the tournaments. And there was so many great players. John Airy.
Big Davy Salters. Obviously, Ron who had the club, he's not here anymore. Mike Nixon, Mike's got the club now. Obviously, we were just talking about him a couple of minutes ago. And obviously, it got more and more supported. Obviously, you boys were coming down. Paul Jameson was coming down from Dumfries. You used to get a lot of the Northeast lads come across. I'm going to throw a couple of names. Russell Powell. Do you remember Russell Powell coming across? Russ was a bit of a feature in the old pro tickets. He was a good player, was Russ. Mike Dunn used to come across. I remember Gary Wilson coming across when he had to stand on a box to choke his cue because he was about 2 foot tall. No, it was brilliant when you look back. They were happy days. We're all skint. We're all kids. We're all skint trying to make a living, but didn't matter, did it? Because you just loved playing.
Just great times, yeah. So what are you doing with yourself now, Ian? Obviously, when did he pack in? It was a few years ago now. Was it 10 years?
10 years since I played now. And it hurt me at the time, if I'm honest. I was fit. I was out training a lot. And I'd started with a lot of problems with my shoulder about... must have been about 2008, something like that. And I don't know how it started. I actually fell off a chair. Wasn't drunk. About 2000. And I look back and I wonder whether this set it off or not. I fell off a chair and landed chock on my shoulder. I actually broke my foot. Right. And I landed on my shoulder and never had any trouble for about 12 months, and just started getting this pain in my shoulder one day. And you know what lads are like? Be all right, pain will go away tomorrow. And that pain didn't go away tomorrow. And it ended up where it was getting quite uncomfortable for practice. And I was always a heavy practicer. You know, I was in the club every morning at 9 o'clock. I put my time in, and that's why I got what I got out of it, because I put some effort in. And it was restricting to what I could do. I found my shoulder was like burning, and just I couldn't get down on the shot like I used to. So I went to the specialist, and they went, well, one of your tendons is missing in your shoulder. So God knows I'd snapped it or something. Wow. And I've been putting up with it for about 8 months. And he said, look, you need this operation and that operation. And I don't know whether I was lied to or not, to be honest. They said it'd be all right after 6 weeks, and it never was, basically. Even now, I've got all my strength in it, but it'll be something stupid, like I'll be bending down to pick a towel up in the bathroom, and I just get a mad pain through my shoulder. And I sort of like gritted my way through a couple of seasons, because I was still sort of like around that 16 to 20 mark in the rankings. And then I dropped from sort of like 20 down to about 60 in 2 seasons. And I was missing events because it was all linked with my neck as well. And the fight was still there. I won some games in my last few. I won a game from 4-0 down. So your heart's still there. But if the shoulder won't cope with it, and eventually I was still trying to practice, and it starts to eat away at you. And I remember sat there in my last match against Luca Bracel in the World, and I won the first frame after about 50 minutes, won it on the black or something like that. And I sat there and I went, I don't want to be here. Wow. And I'd had enough. And for years where I'd sat there looking at even Lee, when we played in Pro-Ams, I used to look whoever I played and I thought, you're going to have to kill me if you want to beat me.
Yeah.
This is my Pro-Am. I'm having this. You're not having it. And it's that hunger and that determination that drives you on. And, you know, and eventually that fire goes out. And I sat there against Luca Brett and I just thought, no, I've had enough. And I rolled over to him, to be honest. I lost 10-2. And that was it. There was no Q. Didn't want to go to Q school. I'd had my time. And yeah, that was it, sadly.
Did you feel like that going into it, Ian? Can you remember going into that World Championship?
No, not at all. Because I'd prepared. And my preparation was always absolutely spot on.
Yep.
And even when my shoulder was bad, I was still putting 4, 5, 6 hours a day, you know, which is hard, you know, when you've got a dicky shoulder. But I kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it, because it's all I'd ever known. That's what Mick Caddy drummed into me. Mick Caddy, who coached me for years, Mick Caddy drummed that into me: is you work, you don't stop working. And that's how I work with my lads. And that's why all the lads who I work with or have worked with, I've always seen progression in them. So I never knew anything else to be. I still wake up at 6:30 in the morning now, because I've been that used to doing it for that long, because your body takes 4 hours to wake up in the morning. And I've just done it for that long. And so, yeah, I just got in that match, and and it wasn't like I didn't fancy beating Luca either. I beat him early on in the season in something. And to be honest, I was probably 30% of the player I was. But it was my heart and my determination that kept me gritting through. And no, I just had enough. And the Q went away and it never came out again.
Wow. I mean, I remember you back in the day and turning up for Pro-Ams and stuff, and you were incredibly single-minded, you know, with your approach to snooker. You done everything right, as you said.
Tried to, yeah.
Yeah, you were a great practicer, but also you looked after your body. You'd done a lot of fitness, and you were a perfect sort of professional.
I tried. You know, you can only try. You know, nothing guarantees success, but I think there's a lot of things you can do that reduces your chances of failure. I didn't particularly enjoy going out and doing 30 mile every night on a bike in the middle of winter when it was freezing. But I did, and I did it because the sort of like twisted side of me enjoyed it, to see how far I could push myself. And you know, those nights when you didn't want to get on that bike when it was freezing cold, it shows how determined you are, doesn't it? I suppose. And I got a little bit of reward for it.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the players that I think got every bit of your potential out of yourself from what you put in.
No, I agree. I was never. It's funny. I remember Dennis Taylor coming to practice, and I was really lucky because I linked up with Dennis, and he was like world number 5 or whatever he was, something like that. And he was a phenomenal player. You know, people think Dennis didn't score. He was phenomenal, and he tie you knots. You didn't know what day of the week it was sometimes, and you learn from it. And I'll use Stuart Penn was a really good example. You know, Stuart practiced with him a couple of times, and I said, "How do you get on with Dennis?" He said, "I'm not playing him anymore. He plays too much safety." Right? Where I thought, well, hang on, he's world number 5. You've sort of like you've got to use him, haven't you? You know, I went down to Anthony Hamilton's a great mate of mine. I went to Anthony Hamilton's about probably once a week for 4 or 5 years. Played 3 best of 9s coming back from Nottingham at like 7:30, 8 o'clock because I loved his practice. And in 4 or 5 years, I think I won 2-1 once in sets. That's how good Hamilton was. And wow. I made a ton in each decider. I took a 5 off him. I screamed all the way home. But I just thought, well, if he's bashing you up, he's too good for you. So you can only learn from him, can't you? And I see a lot of players doing this now where they want to go and play players who they're bashing up all day long. And it doesn't do you any good because when you get in a match and somebody's hitting you hard and you're not used to being hit hard. I can remember playing Fergal O'Brien in the World one year. And I remember I'd been with Dennis the day before in the club. And he said, "Who have you got tomorrow?" I went, "Fergal O'Brien." And Dennis's exact words were, and this is not being disrespectful to Fergal in any shape or form, because I love the bones of Fergus. He rings me up every now and then for a chat, cracks me up. He used to come and stop with me all the time. And Dennis said, after practicing with me, it'll be like playing your mum. Right? And he wasn't being disrespectful. That's how hard a player Dennis was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I always had that bit of sick twisted in me that I'm going to keep letting you try and beat me and let you try and beat me. There'll be a day when it turns around. Rod Lawler battered me for years. Absolutely battered me for years. And then one day it just turned and Rod just picked balls out for 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And do you think that's something that's just clicked in your head? You found a way
I think you've got to have that will and determination. I think you've got to this is what I say to all the lads who ask me for help. And I say, look, it's not about, you know, you play snooker for a living. It's not about having to work. You've got to want to work, because if you don't want to do something, it's not your friend, is it? And if you're looking at it as your enemy, you're not going to want to put that time in. And I see loads of kids on tour to this day who are massively underachieving, and you can see what they're doing wrong, but they can't. You know, they think playing 3-4 hours a day is enough. They think playing somebody who's not good enough. You see lads who are 2 or 3 stone overweight, and they're clearly not doing enough, are they?
Yep, exactly.
Sorry, Lee. You guys are players, so you'll know it from all angles, and I know it just from watching. But so almost what you seem to be saying there was that there's something around, you know, having patience in terms of playing against different players and being able to just keep yourself focused. And it's not just about bang bang, try and wipe the floor quick. You have to have a rounded mental approach to your game to cope with some of these players, like Fergal's mum or your mum.
Yeah, well, you know, I think I was a little bit lucky. I always had good people around me, and Mick Caddy was who coached me for years. He was a fantastic motivator, right? And he gave you reasons he'd give you targets, even if it was just a little pro-am. The first target every day would be win that pro-am and not lose a frame. Never did it. It's virtually impossible, isn't it, really? Right? Yeah. But then there were targets like, you know, right, do this, do that, make this many breaks, make that many breaks. If it goes to a decider, win it in one visit. He was a great motivator. So I always had reasons, even when I was going to go and practice with people. It was right. You need a reason to do this. These are your targets, right? These are your targets. If you hit your targets, you know, reset some new targets. And eventually when somebody instills something in you enough, you do it automatically. You know, I can remember being sort of like 7-2 up in the world sometimes. And where some people go, the match is won now, making me go, no, get out there and cut his throat, beat him 10-2, make 3 tons, really rub it in. And that's not being malicious against your opponent. It's about getting the best out of yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course, if you're showing them a bit of weakness, if you let them get back into the match, at that level, it's suicide.
Absolutely. At any level, if you show people weakness at any level, this is one of the things I say to some of the lads I've worked with. Look, the other guy's not going to hit you around the head with a cue. He might try and bully you, but he's not going to hit you around the head with the cue. So you've got to stand your ground. And you've got to have. What a horrible way to make your living playing snooker for money. It's a horrible way, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, because when you're playing your friends, that if you win your own wages and they're not on wages, it's not a nice thing to do to your mates. It's a horrible way to make money, right? But at the same time, it's a very, very privileged job. So why not give yourself the best chance of winning? Yeah,
absolutely. And you're saying that, Ian, you were prolific on the exhibition scene, when you were a professional. And it's quite incredible this, but you never used to take a fee unless you made a century break.
A bit of a con, really, weren't it? Because you're always going to make a ton, weren't you? I think I cocked it up twice.
Really?
Well, no, but you know what the pockets are like in clubs and stuff like that. And I actually nicked that idea off Nick Dyson.
Right.
Who was a really good player, was Nick Dyson, sort of like mid-90s, not seen Nick for years now. And again, that was sort of like spawned out of us not having playing opportunities, really. And I wasn't top 32 then. I was sort of like making my way, and I thought it was just an extra way of making money, basically. And obviously the working men's clubs have gone now. So I used to send 3 times a year, every 4 months, I used to send 5,000 letters out all over the country. And you get about 2 or 3% work off. So you get you'd end up with about 150 nights a year or something like that, which is a lot of work, 3 nights a week. And it was they sort of like had, they booked Bill Werbenik in 1972, and he never made 100, and you got all that. You'll not make 100 on these tables in our club because these pockets aren't big like what they were on telly and stuff like that. And there's a million stories to tell, but no, because we didn't have a lot of tournaments to play, and it was an extra way of earning. And again, I suppose that goes down to your attitude, doesn't it? That you're a pro snooker player, you're meant to be making your living from it. Do you sit at home and watch Coronation Street, or on a Wednesday night, do you travel 20 miles? And that no ton, no fee thing, you also learn how to break build. You learn different shots and stuff like that. And no, it was a nice way of nicking a few quid, to be fair, for a good few years.
Yeah, and it keeps you playing proper snooker, doesn't it? Keeps
you're playing. You're playing all the time, so you're sharp constantly.
Yeah. Do you ever get twitchy on 90?
I can't remember the last. I'll tell you the truth. I actually played. I put my table in a unit in Manchester about. It must be 2 years ago now when lockdown came on. It was like where people could go in, and we sanitised it after they'd been in and all that. That was all COVID, COVID regulated and all that. And my lad said, "Can we go for a game?" My lad's 15 at the time, and so I said, "Well, I'll take you to Manchester." So we're just taking. He just loves playing. He's not really any good, but. And I said, "I'll show you 1 or 2 things," and everything I showed him, he said, "I'm not doing that, Dad. It's rubbish and all that lot." And then he said, "Look, there's too much talking going on here." He said, "Let's have a proper serious game." I said, "Are you sure?" He went, and I swear blind truth, I made 270 breaks, pure luck, pure fluke, and I should have had 2 tons, and I bottled it both times. And that's the first time I've played any snooker for, can't remember, 6, 7, 8 years.
Do you miss it, Ian? You must miss it.
Do I miss it, Lee? I think you can break that down into a lot of parts, to be honest. Do I miss the buzz of competing? Yes, because you'll know yourself, Lee, from playing in a big event and winning in a big event, there is nothing. Snooker plays a natural show-offs, like at Olympia. You're a natural. Everybody loves whizzing 60 and then a decider when there's 200 people watching, and you're walking around like King Dick. It's ace. It's just a great feeling. But that goes back to league days, doesn't it? Making a 60 break in a league match when you're a kid. And we're natural show-offs. So I miss that. I do miss that big buzz. I missed the buzz of the venues, and it wasn't like I was just turning up at venues and getting B. I was turning up at the Crucible, I was winning matches, and nothing will ever replace that. I've got good mates who are ex-dart players. Colin Lloyd, former world number one, he says it. I was with him last week. Lloyd, he says you can't replace that buzz. I don't miss the practice. I don't miss the travelling. That absolutely killed me come the end.
Right.
When we were going up, when all them PTCs started and things like that, and it was just didn't enjoy that. But yeah, I miss. Do I miss the camaraderie? I had my own little group of friends. I'm still in touch with them lads now. I wasn't stupid enough to think that everybody was my mate on tour. I also didn't particularly like everybody on tour. It's just life. You work together, you're not going to get on with everybody. I didn't particularly dislike anybody. They just weren't my mates. I'm still in touch with Dave Harold regularly. I speak to Ricky Walden a lot. We all go out every Christmas, me, Dave, Ricky and Rod. And there's a few other lads who I keep in touch with. Yeah, it's just what we don't keep in touch with lads you used to work with all the time, do you? So it's just one of them things. I would absolutely love to walk out the Crucible one more time and walk out knowing I had a chance of winning like I used to. But it ain't going to happen, is it?
Well, you say that, Ian, but obviously there's the World Seniors. I think you could just step into the World Seniors and
don't want to. No, don't want to at all. Don't want to one bit, to be honest. Just I'm happy where I am. You have your time. Professional sport is everybody thinks it's going to last forever. The only thing that's a little bit different now is just getting a little bit more comfy. When you get to my time of life, you've got to get more comfy. Professional sports just it's just a part of your life, isn't it? Eventually, it doesn't matter whether you're a footballer, dart player. It would have been interesting to see if my shoulder hadn't played up, how long I could have gone on for, because I look at a lot of the lads from my generation who are now sort of like 50, Fergal, Joe Perry. Well, Joe's a bit younger than me. Joe Perry, there's loads of them. They've had like an extra 10 years out of it with and they've probably earned more in that last 10 years than what they did in the first 20 because there's more opportunities. But, you can't look back and be bitter, can you? I can't complain what it did for me, and still does for me.
How do you feel about the game now, the state of the game? Do you still follow it, Ian? And I'm just thinking, you mentioned about the kind of youngsters coming through and almost the way the World Championships works. And, now the youngsters or the new players on the tour are playing in the first rounds against top players. They don't have to work their way through to play the elite. And obviously, you've mentioned about giving a hand to, or helping some other players to think about their game and how they improve and your approach. What's your overall feeling about the state of the game? Is a really short question for a long.
It's an interesting one. I would love to be playing now, because all you want as a player is playing opportunities. And there were seasons back in the early to mid 90s where we had 7 tournaments. And you see people on, no, you didn't. There were never 7 tournaments. There were 7 tournaments. Mm-hmm. If you were top 16, you might have got the Masters, and you might have got the Scottish Masters, and you might have got the Irish Masters, and a couple of others. But for us lads down at, at the bottom of the hall, we were getting 7 tournaments a year. And, you look at it now, and they've got, I don't know what they've got this year, to be honest, but some seasons they've had like 25, 26 tournaments. Yeah. And all you want is playing opportunities, I think what Barry Hearn has done a fantastic job, and it's not a charity. And I got absolutely malleted for this on social media a while ago. It is not a professional sport. Is not a charity. If you are good enough, you will earn your living. Right now, I'm not going to name the player, but a lad who I work with about when it was all going on about how players should be paid money in the first round and things like that. So I thought, is it me who's wrong here, thinking, no, them lads should be getting a bit of money and stuff like that? So I spoke to this player. I said, what do you think about that? He went, I don't want anybody taking it. He said, I'm trying to improve. I'm trying to get better. He said, I don't want anybody taking my money off me when I'm winning. So listen, I can see both sides of the argument, but I always think that if you know what you're getting into when you go through Q school, right? Nobody qualifies through Q school delusional thinking they're going to earn £1 million. Right, because if you lose in your first round and everything, you're not getting a penny. I think you might get a bit of a butty for the shootout and stuff like that. Whether that's right or wrong is open for debate, and it'll always be open for debate, won't it? But I don't personally, for me, and Barry Hearn said this when he took over. He said, "I am going to stop mediocrity." He said, there was too many lads, and he's absolutely right. There were too many lads crabbing 30, 40 grand a year. And I'm going back 20 years ago, 30, 40 grand a year who never weren't doing anything. They didn't want to work at it, you know, and they were nicking the money. And it's not right, really. And people go, well, the money's top heavy. Well, if you look at any sport, the money's top heavy. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're worried about covering your expenses, as they call it, you know, giving lads, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, because I'll get slated for it anyhow. So, but if you're worried about turning up to a tournament and your biggest motivation is nicking 250 quid or 500 quid to cover your expenses, you're not looking forward enough, are you? Because you should be going to them tournaments with your heart set on winning them and nothing else.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I can really see the point, Ian. Sort of, you know, if you've just gained your 2-year card, I think your expectations are a bit different to.
I agree, Lee. I do agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's sort of getting on the ladder, and then you progress through there. But it's nice to hear a different side of it, because every time we've had players on that have spoke about this, or people, it's certainly been another opinion that the guys should maybe get something for getting beat in the first round.
I think opinions, especially if you're still playing, I think your opinions maybe reflect where you're ranked and stuff like that. You know, I see people going, I get the random draws. I find it harsh. I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, people say he's getting tough draws. Look what I do a bit with Ashley Hugill the last 2 or 3 years. Look at the draws Ashley Hugill had 2 seasons ago, right? He had an absolutely stinking run. And the few matches he did win, next match he was playing Robertson, he was playing Ronnie, he was playing the Selby. He had an absolute stinking run. And I've got him on the phone. He's screaming to me on the phone, because he can scream to me. That's what I'm there for. And I said, listen, it cannot keep up. You will not keep drawing top players. And eventually things turn around, don't they? But instead of bleating about it, he didn't. He said, no, he's right. Let's stay focused. Let's keep doing what I need to do. Let me pop balls, and eventually things will turn around. And they have turned around for me. He's started to win a few games now.
Yeah, and surely, although it was unlucky at the time, surely those experiences stood him in good stead for where he is now.
I can remember, you know, people think it's different now, it's harder, it's easier now. I can remember one season, and I think we had 8 tournaments, and I played 7 of the top 8 players in the world. I played Hendry in Malta, I played Williams at the Crucible, I think I played Higgins in Thailand. I lost to Ebden 5-4, Hunter 5-4. And I remember the last tournament of the season, I'd lost 5-4 to Ebden. I was 1 match off getting in the 32. I think this was about 98, I think, something like that. And I walked back into the venue after a particularly heavy night on the ale. Apologise to a lot of people. And I went in to watch the snooker, and I watched 2 players playing, and I shouldn't have gone in because it just kills you. There was 2 lads. One was trying to get it. One was basically trying to stay in the third. Couldn't pot 2 balls together. Yeah. And so you know, if you stay around long enough, the luck evens itself out. You know, you get seasons where you get good draws. You get seasons where you get bad draws. But the other thing is as well, you know, I can remember sort of like, you know, coming through and stuff like that, and I'm just trying to think of a name, and I'm not being disrespectful to anybody. You know, they go, who've you got at such and such a place, and you'd say a name, and they'd go, he'd be like world number 25. You know, so I can't even think of anybody off the top of my head. Who's that? Right? Who've you got at that venue? I've got Stephen Hendry. Jesus, you're playing Stephen Hendry. Now you come back and you've beaten Stephen Hendry, or you've beaten a Selby, or you've beaten in my day it was Davis and all them sort of lads. I'd rather tell people that I'd beaten a John Higgins, or I'd beaten a Ronnie O'Sullivan, or I'd beaten a Mark Selby, or than beating somebody who nobody's heard of.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And them tough draws, if you've got the right frame of mind, or you want to turn your frame of mind around, they actually present fantastic opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we should actually talk about your career, Ian, because as you say, turned pro in 92, you got to Crucible in 99. That's when it sort of started kicking off a little bit. You were an incredible player, an incredible break builder, and like granite on the table. And you had a spell of 3 or 4 years, Ian, where it's like you came from nowhere, but you were getting to finals. And it was incredible. Yeah. And I love on your Twitter bio, by the way, you've got 1st ranked, 16.5 in the world. That's a great line. Could you talk us through that? That's a brilliant line.
Not really, no, not if I don't have to. Not
hurts too much.
No, it doesn't. It did at the time. It was funny because I was practicing with likes of Dave Harold and stuff like that, and Joe Swale. Joe lived at Manchester, and from about sort of like about 98, my game just went from being good to better, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, I talk to lads now and I go, "What's the most tons you've had in a day?" And they go, "I'm making 3 tons a day." You know, you speak to Joe Swale, you speak to Dave Harold, you speak to Chris Norbury. There wasn't many days it wasn't hitting 8, 9, 10. I remember Shaw Catali coming to practice with me one day, and the first set I made 3 tons, the second set I made 3 tons and a max, and the third set I made 3 tons. And he come the day after, I did the same again. And the third day he come and I made 5 tons on the trot. And he put his cue away. I went, "What are you doing?" I'm going home. So we're going home for us. I'm not picking balls out for you. And this is on a proper match cut. Ask John Higgins what my table was like at Great Ormond. That's Marcus Campbell. It was match cut and then tighter again.
Yeah.
Like TV lighting in. And so I knew eventually that my game was going to come out, but I couldn't. I was bashing Dave Harold up. I was bashing Swale up. And I couldn't work out what was missing. And I went to the shrink, and the shrink sorted out the drop of a hat, basically. And I couldn't believe how stupid I'd been. And all of a sudden, I can always remember the sort of like the first breakthrough conference 20 years ago, and I got the final of the British Open, and I played Williams in the semis, and I think he was world number 1 at the time, and I did him 6-3, and never missed. They get a 98% pot rate or something like that. And I got back to my hotel room, and Joe Swale had texted me, and he went, "About time."
There you go. Yeah.
He said that's been waiting to come out for ages, you know. So it wasn't that my game wasn't there. You know, sometimes you can be a bit restrictive, you know, and again, you can look at stuff. If you look at the first, I think it was about the first 8 venues I played at. I didn't know this, but I never lost to a player, apparently, first round at a venue between 9 and 16.
Wow.
Well, whether it's true or not, I don't know. That's what I've been told. So, but I was drawing top 8 players all the time, and it makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah, I mean, your record against the elite is, you know,
I won't say brilliant.
It says a lot for your game. I mean, that game against Williams you're talking about, 6-3, you won that. You made 7 breaks over 50, including a ton. I mean, that's amazing. You know,
it was nice. It was nice to do it. I actually woke up that morning, believe it or not, and I got up in the morning, I went in the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and I didn't do it intentionally. I just went, "You'll win today."
Mm-hmm.
Mad, innit, how things like that, and I knew I was going to win. It was odd, but I suppose when you get yourself in such a good place and such a good frame of mind, you're ready for anything, aren't you? I remember when I lost, going back to the 16.5 thing. I remember when I lost to Matthew in the semis of the World. I actually went back to the hotel room and I cried.
Yeah.
And I got myself in such, that's the adrenaline, that's everything coming out.
Yeah.
But I got myself in such a good place, and I was so physically fit and mentally strong that I just couldn't see anything else but winning that tournament. And obviously it didn't happen, but you know, that's what it is. And then Sean Murphy went and won it and cost me a fortune.
Yeah, because
you Sean get on great, by the way, don't worry about that.
Yeah. But you would have been in the Masters, wouldn't you? And then
well, I got them. I did get the Masters. I did get the Masters, yeah, that year. And I ended up playing Joe Perry. And there was a bit of a not with Joe, but I was turning up there as world number 16, even though I wasn't world number 16.
Yeah. And
World Snooker had actually paid me. We'd gone to a tournament in Ireland at the start of the season, and we got the prize money list through, and it said, I think it was $4,000 for being a seeded player or 500 quid for being a wild card. So I rang them up and I went, "Can you tell me, am I a wild card or a seeded player?" And they went, "Well, you're a seeded player. You're number 16. So I went out. Neil Robertson didn't actually. He was that was a nice, easy wild card player to play. Neil Robertson. And then the Masters come round and I'm playing Joe Perry, and I think I was actually higher ranked than Joe Perry. And I said, can you tell me whether I am a seeded player? I'm a wild card. And they went, oh, no, you're a wild card. I said, well, can you tell me I was a seeded player for Ireland? Oh, no, you weren't. I said, well, can you tell me why you paid me $4,000? And they went, we didn't. I said, you sure? Absolutely. This is how higgledy-piggledy it was. So Joe was turning up at the Masters, guaranteed 10 grand. I think I was higher ranked than him, right? I was turning up to the Masters on 2 grand. I've got to beat Joe for 10. How does that work?
Crazy. That is crazy.
That's what it was like back then. It was all to cock anyway. So no, I beat Joe. I actually played all right in that match. I finished off with a really good one visit, all pinks to the middles, and then I lost Ronnie. He was a bit lucky, really. He beat me 6-0 in about an hour. I still think he was lucky to this day, to be honest. And all the companies rattling taxi for McCulloch, it was brilliant.
But you were really kicking off in that time, for 3-4 years. Ian, you made 2000 World Championships, got beat by Hendry in the quarterfinals.
I'll tell you what, that was what that was 2004. Hendry beat me that.
2004, yeah.
Yeah, and I played well that match, and he beat me 13-2, I think, or 13-3. And I actually played all right. I was the number of times I got in on 40.
Yeah.
And hit the bunch and potted a red, or hit the bunch and stuck to a red, and he'd run out. He was a phenomenal player.
And you had a couple of centuries yourself in that match.
Yeah. I think I played well that match. Yeah.
And then the Grand Prix in 2004 as well. You were really on a great run of form. You got to the final. Ronnie beat you in the final. Yeah. But the players, Ian, you beat to get to the final. You beat Rod Lawler, Jimmy White, Stephen Hendry, Maguire, Michael Judge in the semis, and then Ronnie in the final.
Yeah. That was, to be honest, that was a bit of a disappointing final. Ronnie didn't play well, to be honest, in that final. And I just think, I don't know. It's because it was Preston.
The fun crowd, yeah.
Yeah, it was a funny week because I always used to, when the season used to finish, and then sort of like you do all the presentation nights for the leagues finishing and all that till about the end of May.
Yeah.
Can we just pause for a minute, lads? Because I need to go to the loo. So when the seat.
Yeah.
So yeah, the season used to finish, and obviously you'd end up doing a lot of like presentation nights, and I think I actually once did from the Crucible finishing to the end of May, I did 35 gigs in about. I was talking at football in the day because I used to work for Blackburn Rovers and Preston North End. And then so I was doing, some days I'd do 2 exhibitions in a day, one in the afternoon, one at night. And I was just money hungry, grabbing the money, right? and then get to the end of May, and that was me. June was my month off, right? I won't do any exhibitions. And so all the things that I hadn't done for the past 11 months, I did in that month. And I used to go out on the ale with the boys, and I used to eat myself like a pig. And we used to go on holiday, and I'd put a stone on in a month. Did it every year, stone in a month and a half, something like that, right? And people go, oh, that's a load of rubbish, that. The lads who were around me, every year it was the same. And then when the season used to start, because it never started till October, so about the beginning of September, when we had about 6 weeks, or mid-August, it stopped. And then I started getting back on the bike and I'd train it all down and stuff like that. And that year, I don't know why, something had got in my head. Worst player in the world, couldn't pop 2 balls together, and used to go up to Hartlepool to play in a little, it was like a little invite comp, 16 of us, and it was like your David Gracies, he was only a kid then, Dave, Mike Dunn, Pete Lines, plus I think Gary Wilson was in it, plus some of the amateurs up in that neck of the woods. And I used to go up for the guy, and his name was Tony Short, and he used to get me some exhibitions as well. So he'd play on a Tuesday night, and he'd get you an exhibition on the Monday night, exhibition on the Wednesday night. So it was win-win. Mm-hmm. Anyway, didn't want to particularly play in this thing in Hartlepool because my head were up my arse, and ended up actually playing pretty good. I think if I remember right, I beat Peter Lyons in the final. And I made 2 or 3 tons. And it was quite, for a club table, it wasn't that easy a table. So it was just nice to get back into winning.
Yeah.
Carried on practicing, couldn't hit Carl's ass with a shovel in practice. And then we had to go out to Switzerland for the Swiss Open. And then it was Selby, Robertson, Mark King, Jimmy White, Matthew Stevens, myself. I think I was the rubbing rag of a lot of them, to be honest. I didn't want to go. And all I can remember is being absolutely red hot, playing your matches, going back to your hotel room, having a shower, and just lying on bed because it was just making it. And he'd got the TV involved. He'd done a really good job of it, and I won that. I beat Jimmy in the final. I didn't just beat him. I absolutely just destroyed him, basically 5-1. And then the week after, it's Preston, and just had zero confidence. And the shrink saying to me, look, how can you look what you've just done the last 2 weeks? You're not missing. So I remember playing Rod Lawler my first match and absolutely played out my tripe. I think I've had a 130 odd. Rod's had a 130 odd.
Yeah.
And I've just ended up absolutely couldn't have hit it any sweeter. He's left me a lot of last long red, and I just some shots and I just hit it so pure. As soon as you've hit the white lead, sometimes you just know it's
yeah.
And I nicked that, and I can remember running. This was on the Saturday night, and I remember running out the venue, and I was with Lee Mack, who used to look after me, Lee McLaughlin, and we had a wedding to go to. Stuart Andrew was getting married, and I said, "Come on, let's get to Stuart's wedding." He went, "It's 11:45 Ian." I said, "Wait. Right, so you lose track of time, don't you? It's a true story, this.
Yeah.
I came home, and I wasn't playing again from Saturday night. I wasn't playing again till Wednesday afternoon, right? And what I used to do, Millie were only little then. She was only, Sam wasn't here then. Millie was only about 3 or 4. So I used to take her up to Guildhall. I used to sit her at the table and have a photograph took with Michaela, and she thought Michaela were ace, right? I think Michaela's ace. She is ace, right?
Uh-huh.
And so on the Wednesday afternoon, I remember playing Jimmy. Guildhall's packed. You know, he's one of the players who you want to play. You're in front of your own, aren't you? The Guildhall's absolutely rammed out. Mm-hmm. And I remember nicking the second frame from about 60 odd behind with a clearance. And I think it was the frame after I was doing the same again. And I yelled off the spot right into his face. And I just thought he's like a dog wanting to be put down here. Right? It's not, he just had enough. And I missed the yellow. So all of a sudden it's 4-all, and I end up making 70 odd in the last first poker. He missed a long red, and then he left me a similar red. I made 70 odd off it. Then I think that got me through to what would that have got me? I can't even think. That got me to 16.
Yeah. And
I think I played Hendry.
Yeah.
In the 16. Now, Hendry had beaten me about 8 times prior to that, but he'd done that to absolutely everybody. You know, he beat me 13-3 in the world, and I've never ever won a frame on the colours against Stephen Hendry in all the times I played. The amount of frames, I remember first time he beat me 5-2, and he won 2 on the black, 1 on the pink. And I just couldn't seem to nick a frame off the colours on him. And we were 2-2 at the interval, and I think I'd gone something like ton 60, and I think he'd gone something like ton 60. And then we come out after the interval, and he's had a break, I've had a break, and then I've nicked one on the blue. And it's the first, I remember sitting in the church, oh my God, that's the first time I've ever nicked a frame. And it was a crap frame as well. It was like Division 4 league stuff, right? And I thought, it's my day, this. It's my, and then he went something like 70 missed, and I cleared up with 71. So that got me through to the quarters. I played Stevie Maguire in the quarters. Right. And to be fair, I'd done all right against Stevie, to be honest. And I think Stevie maybe took, I don't know, maybe he was in that, he was on a massive upward curve around that time, and he might have took me a little bit lightly, I don't know. And he went for a bit of I just remember him going for a bit of a mad plan, and a bit disrespectful, if I'm honest with you. He might not have been. It's just when he misses it, you think it's disrespectful, don't you? If it had gone it. Yeah, but he went for the plan. Whether it was on or not, I don't know. I don't think it had gone for it if it wasn't on. And he missed it, and I went something like 130, and I think I ended up going, I think I went 4-0 up, I think, or 4-1 up, something like that. And he went 4-2, and then I ran out. I think I had something like 60 all off blues, right? But really low value colours. And we used to, every Friday afternoon in the club, Lee McLaughlin, who did a lot for me, looked after me. Lee used to come in, and he wouldn't let me. We used to play for £2, right? Every Friday afternoon, and I wasn't allowed to pot any other ball bar in the blue, right? It's just a bit of fun on a Friday afternoon. If I thought I'd done my work, if I'd worked hard all week, right? And then some weeks you say, right, well, you can't pot blue, yellow pocket, stuff like that, just mad stuff. And every week, I'd give him a stupid start as well, too rubbish. He used to stick his tongue out when he played, he was rubbish, right? He'd laugh his head off if he said that. And he always used to say to me, he said, one day you'll thank me for this, right? playing off the blue, right? So I come out of that match, Lee stood at the door at the back, and instead of going, well done, pal, he's gone, told you them Friday afternoons would help you. Right? So that got me through the semis. And to be fair, and this is not being disrespectful to Michael Judge in any shape or form, because I like Mickey Judge, I've always got on out with me. It was probably the best opportunity I'd ever had in a semi-final or at that latter stage, because I was sick of losing to top 8 players in quarterfinals and things like that. Yeah. And again, this is where your frame of mind comes in, isn't it? Where you instead of going, I'm under pressure here, I should win this game, you're actually going, what a great opportunity this is. And I felt a little bit sorry for Mick, because Mick it was his first semi-final. I'd only got good memories from previous semi-finals, whatever.
Yeah.
And you could see Mick were a bag of nerves. And I think he won the first frame. And God knows how I won the second frame, but I did. I was nervous, obviously. I'm in front of my own. It's Saturday afternoon. It's live on Grandstand. Every madhead and his dogs come out from Preston to watch. All the loonies from the snooker club are in there. It's like a zoo, right? And I win that second frame, and then I settled down, and I think I went something like 60 ton, 80, something like that to go 5-1, I think it was. And that sort of like broke the back out. And I just remember getting a really cheeky fluke. I fluked the yellow off about 4 cushions and cleared up. And I felt sorry for Mick, because it was his first semi-final. He was bang under the cosh. And then the day after on, he done me 9-5. And no, he didn't play well. And I had plenty of chances, to be honest, and I didn't play well. It's just you can't play well all the time. I'd love to go back and play that match again, to be honest. But no, it was from what was not a great time mentally for me. I mean, not feeling like I wasn't good and I wasn't playing, to almost winning a full ranker and doing all right in Switzerland and nicking that thing up in Hartlepool, and just it's weird what comes, isn't it, when you sort of like think you're out of form and you win, and when you're in form, you don't seem to win.
So Ian, we always like to get your reflections and almost take you game by game through when you've done really well. And I think another one we'll talk to in part 2 when we record again with you is looking back at the British Open 2002, where you played, well, another legend really, Paul Hunter, in the final.
Oh yeah. I watched him. I didn't play him.
Well, okay. Well, the scoreboard suggests you did something, but yeah, we'll go through that in the second part. I think there's so much we could cover, and it's really fascinating listening to you. And you're very inspirational. You've got that positive attitude, and I think that's something you can apply to any field, not just snooker. So
absolutely, life,
Yeah, so we'd love to do this again. We're going to meet up with you again soon, and we'll put a part 2 out. But so for now, I think for part 1, and I hope everybody's enjoyed that, and that whets your appetite for part 2. So thanks, Ian.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Yeah, brilliant.